Thanks very much for the opportunity to be here and to talk to you guys. I've got a couple slides. We'll just wait for them to pull up. But so what I'm going to talk to you today about is Ontario and what it is that the Ontario government's trying to do to support innovation in the water sector. And Anthony sort of alluded to my background. I mean, I come from the private sector, so I'm not really a public sector kind of guy. And so one of the things that they really wanted to do when they created WaterTAP, the Water Technology Acceleration Project, is really focus on the businesses and how we could help grow businesses and provide some business support. So it was important for them to find an entrepreneur that was able to sort of speak and relate to the business owners in the water technology sector. The government in Ontario has done a lot of really innovative things. I mean, one of the things, there's a lot of different legislation. One of the things is this Water Opportunities Act, which was ultimately the legislation that created WaterTAP, but it also did things like empower the Ontario Clean Water Agency to really embrace new technologies, and they're sort of a change agent in the province. I won't talk about them a lot, but they operate about 700 facilities across the province and are actively engaging water technology businesses to drive efficiencies across all of these operations. So I think that's fantastic. And there's a number of programs and assets within the province. And one of the reasons they created WaterTAP was to bring awareness to a lot of these programs and assets, which in some sense are undercommunicated and underutilized. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of those specific programs and assets as we go. But I think that's part of it. So it isn't that we're somehow trying to create something new, but we're actually trying to knit together existing programs and assets. And one of the things that differentiates WaterTAP is the fact that we're the only asset, if you like, that's focused exclusively on water. So as we talk about some of these other things, they're sort of cross-disciplinary. We bring that water focus. One of the things that's unique about Ontario is that they actually created a water sector strategy, which is, I think, unique for a lot of jurisdictions. And there's three real pillars of this. And one is designed to drive adoption of innovative technologies. One is attracting investment and income to access global markets, and ultimately to create this competitive advantage. So WaterTAP exists in some sense really to help Ontario water technology companies become successful global competitors. That's part of it. I mean, I'd also like to say that we exist to solve the world's water problems, but not on our own, right? So we're all about collaboration and partnership with other organizations like the Water Council and German Water Partnership and Singapore, Israel. So it's very much recognizing that we're part of a global community, which I think is part of the theme for the discussion today. Our mission actually is a mile wide. I mean, we're ultimately, if you take a look at the Act, we exist to help Ontario become a leader, and we've broken it down a little bit. Really, the things that we're focused on, we play this connector role. Because there are so many diverse activities and groups and organizations doing and touching on different things in water, our job and our role is to help connect people and organizations into the right programs. Again, I take a look at my past as a water entrepreneur, and I think of what I didn't know when I was building my business. We're trying to make it easier for that next generation of entrepreneur to be able to access the programs and support that they need. We're also there to help celebrate and share success. There's so much stuff going on in Ontario. It's fantastic, but we're very Canadian. We don't always talk about what we're doing. And so that's part of our job, is actually get out and talk about what we're doing. And I'm here talking about Ontario, but I travel the world to promote Ontario. And I can tell you I was on a trade mission to India, looking to sort of encourage collaboration between Canada and India. So it's not really just about Ontario. Of course, we're getting paid and sponsored by the Ontario government, but we're here to support the Canadian companies as well, obviously. We also have this interesting role where we're not quite government, we're not quite private sector, but part of our mandate is actually to make recommendations on policy to the province. And so we work very closely with the Ministry of Environment. We're funded by the Ministry of Economic Development. We work closely with the Ministry of Infrastructure as well. And we've got a number of task forces that we're just setting up that are really designed either to provide some insight into more innovative ways to finance water projects. My way of thinking is we spend a little bit of money on non-capital projects. We can save a lot of money on capital projects. You don't have to spend money to replace pipeline that doesn't need to be replaced or to build a new treatment plant when you can be more efficient. So that's part of it. And we're working with the Ministry of Environment to help streamline some of the regulatory communication around the regulatory process, not to change it, but to make it easier to understand so that new technology companies have a better chance to have their technologies adopted. we're also working very closely with the end users with the belief that if you sort of support a discussion amongst peers of end users, you can reduce risk in adopting new technologies. So when we take a look at technology acceleration, those are the sort of components. Is the water company side, and on the company side, what we're trying to do is support businesses that have technologies that work. They're fundamentally there's a lot of support for early stage companies, so we're not trying to reproduce that. But if you've got a company that's got a decent installation base, but really just needs a little bit more time to build a strategy to how to really ramp up their sales. So we're trying to help on that side. The utility side, we're trying to enable these user groups. So if you build a better business, make it easier for technologies to be adopted, and then work with the government to sort of take away any roadblocks, the belief is that we can help accelerate technology in the sector. Talked a little bit about the water assets. So just to put things in perspective, there's over 900 companies in Ontario related to water. We've got over 750 water and wastewater facilities. Within the province, we've got 100 technology incubators. So we've got these regional innovation centers. They're not all focused on water. Some of them, like Guelph, has a little focus on water, but they're all there to support businesses. We've got over 100 water-related research institutes in the province. A lot of stuff going on in water. If you take a look at Ontario as a jurisdiction to find talent for your organizations, we've got a phenomenal university system. We've got a great multicultural environment. This is Ontario. This is Canada. Canada is a multicultural. Great, and we sort of see Ontario as as a gateway to the Americas as well. To give you a sense, there's many organizations, but if you take a look, there's sort of what I call the big six organizations that are somehow supported by the province that sort of touch on water, and we sort of help pull these together. So you've got the Walkerton Clean Water Center, does education, training, and training, research, and validation of technologies. I'm going to talk about two of these and one program in just a little bit more detail because it's important to know some of this stuff. So the Southern Ontario Water Consortium is a watershed-scale research laboratory. It's about a $50 million investment. IBM is a key partner in this. They put the information backbone, but basically there's the ability to do bench scale testing, pilot scale testing, full scale testing of water, wastewater treatment, ecotoxicity, sensor design, analytical lab equipment. So this is a gem of a resource which is going to be coming online in 2014. And I think the idea, there was a study that was done that said one of the challenges to bringing new technologies online was access to testing facilities. And so, this is the response, is to create this opportunity to be able to test and validate. And they work in conjunction with the Walkerton Clean Water Center, but also the Ontario Clean Water Agency. So I said that you've got different players, and so the idea is that if you have something that maybe is water related, you go to Walkerton, maybe it ends up at SOWC for a bit, and then it goes into the group at Ontario Clean Water Agency, and then is adopted by the community at large. So it's very, very interesting. Another thing that the province did is they created the Showcasing Water Innovation program. So this represents about a $17 million investment. Total was about a $40 million investment because there's in-kind support coming from industry, but actual cash out the door from the province was about $17 million. 32 projects were funded to look, again, what I talked about, innovative use of funds. So for non-capital projects, the idea was if you spend this $17 million, what's the return on investment? And these projects are underway. They're not all complete yet, but they're phenomenal return on investment. Doing things differently. We talk about water management. How can we do things differently to do more with less? So this is an example of the province making an investment to do that sort of study. And then I just wanted to touch on Mars, because Mars is this another gem of a resource that exists right downtown Toronto. The Mars Discovery District was initially created with the understanding that there was a lot of research going on in the biomedical area in that downtown Toronto core, and how could the province support and create this technology incubator to help commercialize that. It's since expanded, and so there's a clean tech practice that exists within Mars. This is a facility where you can have companies located as well as just the basic business support. So they provide advice, insight, education. They have access to capital. They've created a Mars Clean Tech Fund which is about a $30 million angel fund and, designed to sort of invest in early stage businesses. So again, we're not trying to create this, we're just trying to get the word out as WaterTAP and sort of pull this together. There's lots of examples of companies based in Ontario that have gone global to do phenomenal things. So if you take a look in, well, I'm not going to go through these in any detail, but just suffice it to say that there's a lot of successes. We've got within Ontario a number of technology clusters which are well established in training, in membranes, phenomenal companies in ultraviolet engineering services. These are well established clusters, and we have emerging clusters. And again, we're there to help support these clusters as they grow. So I think in Ontario we have the right sort of balance. The flower of Ontario is the trillium. It's a sort of a 3-petal flag, and so we've got, I don't know if you can see our little trillium here, but it's this nice connection between government urgency and leadership, the idea of the testing and validation and training and the facilities like we talked about, but also this sort of utility engagement in the commercialization. I think we've got this fantastic mix. So just sort of pulling it all together, I mean, really when I take a look at WaterTAP and what we're really trying to do, it really is that global partnership, getting out there, explaining what we're doing, reaching out, building partnerships, enabling trade, not trying to solve all the world's problems on our own. It's supporting businesses to make sure that, they have access to the programs or the mentorship or, the skills that they need, and then the utility engagement to make sure that, we're not trying to push a string up a hill, that there really is a well-defined need and that utilities are really coming together and are ready to adopt new things, and then working to sort of help drive government policy to support this innovation in the space. So that's what we're all about at WaterTAP.